One.
Here we go. Doing this thing again. How's everybody doing on this fine Tuesday evening? This is the Overtime Sports Show, back at it again with episode 12, here for the next hour and a half to talk everything sports. My name is Greg Gross. With me, as always, my co-host, the one, the only, Dan O'Brien. Dan, how are we?
Oh, doing so awesome right now. I can't believe we've been doing this for 12 weeks. It seems like yesterday we just started. 12
really
weeks,
does.
Man. Yeah, that's 3 months, and we're just rocking and rolling, man. Just like we just started, and we're fresh as can be. So it's great stuff, man. It really is.
Time flies when you're having fun, and I am having fun.
That's what I always say.
If you've been following us week to week now, you know we always lead out the show with Dan's surprise reveal, puts the bucket on his head. So without further ado, Dan, show me what you got for this week.
All right now. So we got myself a fresh New York Yankees hat, straight from Yankee Stadium in July. Don't be shaking your head. You know you'll love it. It's the old fresh classic. I wore one a couple weeks ago, but this is the old classic, my man.
It's a good looking hat. It's when there's something about that logo. When you see it, it's just it brings back memories in me of all the tradition that your team has. There's just such a legacy with that team. And as a Mets fan, it pains me to say that, but I have to say it. But yep. I do got to shake my head too, because it's what you do. You would do the same.
I know. I just had to put it on. I mean, there's a backstory to this. I'm sure you would love it. As our avid listeners have heard, seen, read, we made a huge trade last week for Juan Soto, 25-year-old stud. Everybody knows about Juan Soto who watches any baseball. We obviously, again, we made a trade for him. Didn't give up too much talent. The best pitcher that we gave up was Michael King, and he's a really good player. So I'm going to hurt to see him hurt to see him get gone, because last year he was a relief pitcher, and then towards the end of the year he was a starting pitcher. So he was really valuable to us in the end of the year. We also gave up Johnny Brito, Drew Thorpe, and Kyle Higashioka, who's been with the team for a while. Drew Thorpe was our 99th overall prospect. Good young pitcher, has some good stuff. Also, Randy Vasquez we get rid of too. He pitched in 11 games, 5 starts, had a 2.87 ERA. So we're giving up some pitchers, but the chance to get a 25-year-old budding superstar, Juan Soto, won a World Series with the Nationals a couple years ago, played in 162 games last year, and loves that short porch. Going to hit right in between Judge and Stanton and Rizzo, depending on the lineup. But just had to give love to Cashman. I don't know if you saw what he said, but he wants to make the Yankees the Mecca again, meaning he wants all of the free agents to come, wants all the top players to come. So I gotta give him some props on getting that trade done, because that was a really good trade. We didn't have to get rid of Anthony Volpe or Jason Dominguez, 2 of our top young prospects. So very, very happy with the trade.
Yeah, I bet you are. I don't know how you can't be. I was going to ask you if you were happy with what you had to give up. Obviously, it's a give and take for a guy who is going to hit free agency, but It sounds like you are. It makes sense, I think, for both teams. Um, I guess, do you think there's any chance that he doesn't re-sign year after next when his deal expires? I mean, that's the
So I
$1 million
think
question, isn't it?
it's actually probably the $400 million question, because he's going to be asking for a lot of money. And
Yeah.
I think it's just going to depend on how he responds to New York, how he responds to the big lights, and how he responds to the team does. I mean, if we win a championship, which I think we might have a good opportunity, then he might like it in New York, and we're going to have more revenues coming in. So I think it'd be better. We'll be able to resign him, but it's really just time's going to tell. I mean, worst case scenario, we didn't give up too much, and we have him for a year, and we could test the waters. But if all shit should go Shanola, as people would say, then we trade him at the deadline, and then we get more prospects. So it could be a win-win for us. It could be, maybe he loves it so much he gives us a quote-unquote hometown discount. But we'll see. I'm just excited with the trade. I mean, Yankees have been stagnant in the years past. Last, a couple years they didn't go Machado. A couple years they didn't go after Harper. Last year they didn't go after the big free agents, the shortstop, your boy, the Mets messed up on. What was his name? Carlos Correa. And then 2 years ago we didn't go after Simeon, or we didn't go after Corey Seager. So it's kind of been a standstill besides Garrett Cole. And I'm kind of happy that
that's where
Brian
I was
Cashman. Yeah, I'm happy
I was
Brian
really
Cashman
thinking
finally did it.
When you said Cashman wanted the Yankees to become the Mecca, I was thinking to myself, kind of felt like they never really missed a beat. I mean, I know you mentioned some of the big names that they didn't go after, but it hadn't been too long since they went after Cole, and I feel like he was the prize free agent that year that they acquired him. To me, just the outsider looking in, maybe it's just so many years of the Yankees having done that and been the Mecca destination for free agents that it's probably baked and ingrained into my mind, and probably always will be. But to me, I just never really even thought that they missed a beat in that regard. I feel like, and I obviously it seems like that's what they want. Cashman and the owners want the team to be seen as this destination that players will always want to go to. So I never felt like they missed a beat. I mean, even in the other guys, the big names that are still out there, obviously Ohtani signed, and we'll spend some time talking on that. But some of the other guys out there, Yamamoto and a few others, the Yankees are their name is always brought up in the conversation. So I feel like they still are that Mecca destination.
Yeah, what they're going to try to do is, the last time we won the World Series was 2009, as you've mentioned a couple times. And what we did that year is we signed AJ Burnett, we signed CC Sabathia, and we signed my boy Sexy Texy Mark Teixeira. So what we're trying to do is relive that from 2009, and that's when we were quote unquote the Mecca. We get guys here and there, but no one's been. Garrett Cole was a big splash, as you mentioned, but we want to get Yoshi Uramoto. We want to get a couple other guys. I would love for us to get Josh Hader too. I know I mentioned that when we talked about the Mets hiring their manager, how I believe he should get Edwin Diaz money, because that's how good of a player he is. But I do believe that Cashman is at his wit's end. The fans are at his wit's end with Cashman. I mean, it's time to put up or shut up. And going after Soto, that really puts us in a right line. And we met with Yoamato yesterday. We had two of our Japanese dudes, Hideki Matsui and Masahiro Tanaka, also met with him. So, we're really putting our best foot forward. And end of the day, that's all we really can do. I mean, we're going to go out there, we're going to put the big bucks. And, people want to come to New York and they want to play in the bright lights, as behind me, as we're going to play in the bright lights, in my background. And, I just think that's what we're going for. The Mecca, we're going for 2009, and we're going to try to sign these guys long term. Because as you saw what we did last year with Judge, we have Volpe, we have Rizzo, we have LeMahieu, we have this kid Jason Dominguez that I mentioned. He's the next big thing. He had Tommy John, but he'll be back in July. And to build an outfield with Soto, Dominguez, and Judge, I mean, that's going to be formidable for the next 6-7 years, as long as we can make it happen, which I have all the faith in the world in Brian Cashman. I mean, his stats speak for themselves.
So I got two-part question for you, I guess. Number
Sure.
one, do you feel that this impacts the ability to re-sign Judge? Because I know there's been some questions about whether they're locking him up long term. Isn't he due for a
No, they
deal
locked him up
soon?
last year. 9 years, 360 million.
Oh, did they? Okay. So
Yeah.
then the next part of my question was I forgot. I didn't realize he got that deal. So I wanted to switch gears for a second and talk about Otani, but it's
Oh
relevant
yeah, I got
to
that.
the Yankees as well, and everything you just talked about, all these big name free agents. Don't you think it's time for the MLB to move to a salary cap? And I know what you're probably saying. Others will say it too. Well, the MLB has their form of salary cap, and maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't know. It's a luxury tax. It doesn't work the same way as a salary cap. And the reason why I bring it up is I saw this meme or this stat, whatever you want to call it, over the weekend, and it was showing what Otani's due to be paid. And we know that there's some guys on your team that are making pretty obscene money as well. Not 700 mil, but there's been some heavy contracts doled out. And in comparison to what I think there was 6 or 7, maybe 8 teams on the list who as a whole are going to be making less than Otani is going to be making in one season. And I know obviously he's deferring money and whatnot, but there are just so many teams out there whose combined payroll is 50 million, give or take. And then you've got these guys out there, these superstars who are already or will be making 50, 60, 70 million per year just by themselves. And to me, I just got to wonder, like, is it really time to institute a true salary cap? Because I don't want, this is coming from a Mets fan who now we have a guy who has arguably the most endless bank account you could imagine in Steve Cohen behind the scenes, which is great. I get to see what you've had for years, somebody who is not, money's no object, and you just throw money at the problem and see if it fixes it. I would argue that more often it hasn't helped, but just to have that money is great if you have it, but it just seems so imbalanced. And I don't know if unfair is the right word, but when I look at the other major pro sports who have the cap, it seems to keep things more competitive, because the teams that don't and aren't forced to maintain a minimum cap, if you will, it looks like they're going to be perennial cellar dwellers. And I know there's the rare exception. Kudos to teams like the Rays, and even this past year, the Orioles have managed to put together respectable performances, or even far exceeded expectations despite that low payroll. But part of me just thinks, what's holding them back? Is it the old tradition where baseball is that old niche sport where guys don't want to change the rules and change how it's operated? I'm curious your thoughts, because it popped in my mind, and I really don't know why baseball doesn't follow suit and just implement a traditional salary cap across the board.
I don't really have the true answer to that either, as you were saying, but I would think, yeah, just old school and making it a regional sport. I think that a lot of teams, they don't need a salary cap because, one, they do pay a luxury tax. So if you think about the luxury tax, it really, quote unquote, goes as a salary cap. And what I mean by that, every single year that you're over the threshold, let's say it's 160, you keep paying higher percentages. So yes, there is no salary cap, but yes, there is a salary cap, the luxury tax, because you're still paying that, and that's still getting against your payroll. So pretty much it goes to the old additive. If you have money, big money makes money, and the Mets have money, the Yankees have money, but in the past years, as you said, the Rays, the Orioles, I mean, these teams, it's a 162 game schedule, so you can have, as you've seen with the Yankees, as you've seen with the Mets, as you've seen with the Dodgers. I mean, you can have this high payroll, but if injuries come out, old players come out, you get these young studs come up, and they learn how to play the game, and they do technology, they do stats, analytics, as we've mentioned before in other episodes, that technically baseball is turning into more of a skilled game rather than a payroll game. And what I mean by that is just all the young players coming up, all of the player development, all of the analytics, all of the different pitchers that are coming in. So I do think that a salary cap would help a little bit, but like I said, that luxury tax kind of serves as a salary cap, because the higher your payroll is, the higher amount of taxes you have to pay, and the higher, you're still going to get disciplined by it by taking that much money out. You know what I mean? So either, get a better television contract or try something different, or just do your player development, what the Rays and the Orioles have done.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. You make good points, and maybe that's some of their reasoning why they haven't put it in, because they feel like they're doing something, that the luxury tax is enough of a penalty, I guess, if you will. Or
Yeah.
but I don't know. I just feel like, to your point earlier, if you have money, it's a non-issue. It's almost like I look at these contracts, not contracts, but these fines in the NHL, players who um, get a match penalty or something that's worthy of a suspension. They often get fined, and it's a drop in the bucket. I think the mandatory fine in the NHL is $5,000 or something. And when you're making
Yeah. Wow.
$10 million a year, whoop-de-doo, it's a dollar to you and I. So I kind of feel like the luxury tax is the same way. Okay, you went over the cap by 100 million and you got to pay this penalty. They don't care. Drop in the bucket, basically. So I don't know. You're probably right. I don't see them instituting a salary cap anytime soon, but I don't know. I don't understand why they haven't implemented one.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But I did want to speak on Shohei Ohtani. I know
So
that
did I. Yeah.
you spoke on him a little bit. The 10-year, $700 million contract. I know you mentioned the deferrals, but came out today or yesterday that his deferred money is totaling 680 million, and it will be paid between 2034 and 2043. So that means that the 10-year contract that he signed this weekend, he's going to be getting paid $2 million a year to play. And then when he's done, if he's still playing, it's going to be like Bobby Bonilla Day, but they're going to call it, Show Me Ohtani. They're going to change the name to Show Me the Money Ohtani,
Mm-hmm.
because he's going to be getting paid 68 million for 10 years from 34 to 43, which
Yeah.
I was doing some reading, and that's not against the Player Association. I don't know how they get around it, but it does make sense, because what he's doing is he wants to save money for the Dodgers for them to go after somebody else, and
Sure.
which is very clever on the Dodgers end and very, very clever on Ohtani's end. And what that tells me is Ohtani has a boatload of sponsors and endorsements, in the U.S. and also in Japan. So money is probably not a problem for him.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we've seen guys do that in a lot of sports. To me, it's nothing new. It's what guys like Brady have done in the NFL. There's countless names of guys who have taken that quote unquote hometown discount because they want to win. It's smart. You could make the argument, I guess, it's noble. It says something, I think, about their character, that they do want to win. But to your point, I mean, let's not kid ourselves. It's not like they're going without, because they've got
Yeah.
endorsements and all this other money on the side. So is it really that noble? Probably not. But it is smart. They're doing a lot to not guarantee, but give themselves a much better opportunity at whatever championship they're fighting for. So I did see that. I think it's the smart move by Ohtani. I did see, apparently he's not pitching next year because I guess he's
going to have Tommy John. So all he's going
Yeah.
to be is a designated hitter. But I mean, if he focuses more on designating hitter than pitching, he hit 44 home runs last year. I mean, imagine not having to focus on pitching. I mean, he could hit 50 plus. So it's going to be
Wouldn't it be
interesting.
something if we saw him hit 74 and eclipse Bonds without juicing or anything like that? I hope that happens now. I'd love that to become a story.
Yeah, and I'd love for the Dodgers not to make the playoffs either. That'd be awesome too.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, Ohtani seems like a likable guy. Seems like he enjoys America and he's happy to be here. He wants to win, all that good stuff. But I don't know. Maybe it's our culture in America where we like to build up these guys just to tear them down. But to me, it's just the egregious nature of these contracts. I mean, 700 mil. I'll be honest.
Yeah,
I
ridiculous.
was rooting for him. I wanted to see the first $1 billion contract, and because he's such a unique athlete and he plays both sides of the ball in baseball, which nowadays nobody does. Nobody's really done it since Babe Ruth. That was 100 years ago. It's just so unheard of. The guy, I don't want to say he deserves it, because I don't know that any athlete or person deserves that kind of money, but I feel like we're going to see a $1 billion contract at some point in the near future. I really thought we were going to get close to seeing it. And it's obscene money. And I'm sitting here wondering, I mean, when is enough enough? When do we bring some of these deals back to earth for a couple reasons? Number one, I think about the inequities of what guys like you and I and then the rest of the world, blue collar workers make compared to what these
Yeah.
athletes are making. And it's difficult. It's a slippery slope because on one hand, I want to pat them on the back and say, you're worth what people are willing to pay you. So on the one hand, I'm jealous and I want to give them a congratulations for getting their bag. I mean, I very much believe in capitalism and free enterprise in this country, but when you start to sit down and really ingest those numbers, it just truly is an obscene amount of money. And the other thing I look at is, in a lot of ways, this kind of goes back to, I wanted to ask you about Soto and some of the other contracts, because at what point do you start to consider the risk in a lot of these contracts, especially with, you brought up Bobby Bonilla and the Mets, they are still paying that guy. And that's a
Yeah.
lot of reason. Those horrible contracts are a lot of the reasons that the old owners are no longer around. And I'm not talking about the Ponzi schemes and things like that with the Mets, but there's been other examples in other teams where there's just been mismanagement, guys getting these ridiculous contracts, these ridiculous terms, money up front, and it just blows up in your face. I feel like more often than not. So I'm curious, you as a Yankee fan, I mean, are you worried about that? I know it doesn't mean that much when you seem to have endless pockets, but it still has to be a concern, right? I mean, isn't that a
Oh yeah.
risk?
Yeah. I mean, the risk, it was a huge risk when we signed Judge last year. I mean, he's a big boy. Everybody knows that. He's, 6'7", 6'8". He had a lot of injuries. I mean, the crazy thing about baseball, this, them and hockey, they're the only two sports really, and basketball, where the money's guaranteed. So you sign that 9-year, $360 million contract, all that money is guaranteed no matter what. So there is a little bit of risk because like I said, Judge, before he signed the massive contract last year, he was injured a lot. So, and he's not a young buck anymore. I mean, he's, younger than us, going into his 31 season. So there's a lot of risk. I mean, look what happened last year. He was going on a fly ball, playing his aggressive self, and ran into the wall and messed up his thumb. I mean, his big toe on his big foot. And, that can happen to anyone. And same with Soto. I mean, Soto's only 25 years old. So let's say that Soto signs a 10-year, $400 million deal with the Yankees. And the next year, his first year in the contract, he gets hit in the head or gets hit in the knee or hit in the leg. And it's a career-ending injury. I mean, there's a lot of aspects. So I think it just goes down to the front office, your management, your research, and the age of the player. I mean, like I said, Soto played 162 last year. I think he played about 150, 155 his whole year, his whole career. And he came in as a 19-year-old. So he's still fairly young. I think it just got to go on analytics, on what the player has done in the past, and kind of just take the risk because it's a risk reward. It's a fight or flight. That saying, and either you pay the big bucks or somebody else can pay the big bucks and you lose out. And you just kind of, it's a gamble. And yes, I do agree with you that the money should probably, there should be a standard. Remember a couple years ago in NFL, they set the draft standard when these draft picks were getting, $50-60 million guaranteed. And then they set the line at the draft pick where it's only, 20-25 million. So I don't know if they want to try that in baseball, but it goes back to your salary cap thing. If there's no
Yeah.
salary cap there, then why should they have to say, okay, your limit on a contract is 300 million or 250 or 220? So it's really kind of a catch-22, and there's really not a right answer. But the right answer is, like I said, not to repeat myself, but just doing your research on a player, seeing how his past career has been and his past injuries have been, and then kind of just take it from there, and value how you, or give the player the value that you think is utmost right. That's just my thoughts on that matter.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. Like, you're right.
Yeah.
It all stems from the salary cap or the lack thereof, because you're right. I think it's a good deal. The NHL has limits on entry level contracts. Guys who break into the league, they're capped at a certain number for the first 3 years before they're eligible to go out there and test the waters and get something else. I think it keeps the athletes grounded with respect to what they're expected to make. I think it protects the teams from having to deal with these obscene contracts, this guaranteed money up front. But like you said, it all stems from the fact that there is an overarching cap, and baseball doesn't have that. So just so many things just go out of whack. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, a lot of this is projecting probably far out into the future just because of how long these contracts are. We won't really know the magnitude and the impact of this Ohtani deal for a long time. Whether or not 10, 15 years from now, we're laughing at the Dodgers for what they gave him and how long they'll be paying him, or if they win, a couple championships. That's the other thing too. At what point do you feel like it was worth it? At what point do you feel like you got your money's worth out of it? Is it one championship's enough? I would argue no. I know winning trumps everything, but when you're giving them that kind of money for that long, aren't you expecting a few? Like you're kind of hitching your wagon to this guy, and you're expecting a dynasty, right? Like I know they don't grow on trees, and you can't wave a magic wand and just create a dynasty, but that's the expectation now, right? I mean, to have this guy be your anchor for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I mean, with him, it's a little different ball game just because he's from Japan, and if they win one championship, that's gonna exponentially give them a lot of money just because of the exposure of Dodger fans in Japan, and that's going to really help them out. But yeah, I mean, to quantify the contract that 10 years, $700 million. I mean, what do you quantify it as? 3 championships, 4 championships, or playoffs every single year? I mean, you got to go more than the playoffs. You probably got to. You probably got to go to. You probably got to go to championship games. You probably got to win a couple championships. But I mean, another crazy stat with that is him and Mookie Betts. They're $1.2 billion between the two of them on their contracts. Isn't that stupid?
Ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, it really is. Jeez.
Yeah.
To have two guys take up that much money, it's incredible.
I mean, hence one was 10 years, and I think Mookie was like 12 years, but still $1.2 billion for two people. And then you still have Freddie Freeman, who is a likable guy, but he's got a lot of contract too. But I mean, it sucks because I do like Freeman, but Betts is a Red Sox guy, so I'm not a fan of him. And then seeing Shohei, which I did want to get behind him, but I mean, this a little crazy, 10 for 700. I mean, going back to your concept where you said you wanted to see $1 billion contract, I think if he wasn't injured and he was like the legit two-way player that he was last year, I think it would have touched $1 billion because you're really getting a Cy Young pitcher and you're getting an MVP hitter, and it probably would have touched $1 billion if you didn't have that Tommy John that he's gonna have this year.
Yeah, because you think about it, I mean, you're right. You split the player down the middle for the way he plays both sides. You go give him one $500 million contract for being a hitter, one $500 million contract for being a pitcher, and there you go. So
Yep, exactly. So before we move on, I just wanted to touch on we talked about Yoshi Yoramato, the other big league, the big free agent. I don't know if you've seen his stats, but he is something crazy. I'm just reading some of his things. He's the first player in history of professional baseball to win the Triple Crown in 3 consecutive years, meaning leading the Nippon Professional Baseball League, which is Japanese MLB, in ERA, strikeouts, and innings. And over his career, he's got a 70 win, 29 loss, and 182 ERA and 922 strikeouts since 2017. So, not knowing too much about this dude, he's only 25 years old, but he seems like he's the real deal. And they're talking about $250, $300 million contract coming to this dude too. And he's only 25 years old. So he looks like the real deal. So, I mean, if the Yanks can somehow get him, that'd be awesome. But we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, I was reading some of his stats as well. They said since that league, the Japanese league, formed in 1950, he's the first player that's thrown back-to-back no-hitters in consecutive seasons. And they're starting to compare him. This article is comparing him to Pedro Martinez, because he's got a somewhat small frame. I guess he's 5'10", only 176 pounds. But they say that that's not going to fool you. He's got an arsenal of pitches, wicked, pretty unique curveball. I guess they call it the yo-yo curve. So it'll be interesting. I mean, to see where he lands. I'll be shocked if he goes to you guys on the Yanks, but maybe I shouldn't be. I mean, especially if Cashman said he wants the Yanks to be the Mecca again, that landing spot, then why not? Bring them all, sign them all, right? Just throw money at it. But
hey, man, we'll do what old Steve Cohen's doing.
yeah. I can't really talk. I don't know that I love that approach. I'm glad I'm fortunate to see it now as a fan, but even when they were spending peanuts, and I watched teams like the Yankees for so many years spend, or in my opinion, overspend. You guys had a great run in the late 90s, had some success in the early to mid 2000s, but your last championship was 2009. You haven't really curtailed the spending all that much. I know maybe not exactly the way it was, but you're still spending a lot of money. You're still top 3, top 5 in payroll expenditure every single year. And what's it gotten you in the last 13 years? Not a whole lot. So I don't know that I love the approach. I'm not trying to lick a gift horse, the money to spend than not, but I can't say that there's a lot of data to back up overspending the way that a lot of teams have, because it's just, I don't know, always equate with success and championships.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. I mean, they, like you said, Yankees haven't won since 2009, and you know what happened in 2009? Like I said, we signed those 3 big free agents, and that kind of quantified into a championship. But we haven't been back since, and we've still been top 5 payroll, and we haven't really developed young players, but we're starting to, but we really are starting to. So I like this Juan Soto deal, not to bewilder the fact, but I do like this because he's 25 years old. I think if we can re-sign him, that'd be a really formidable outfield. Like I said, with Soto, Dominguez, and Judge, and Volpe and shortstop, and Garrett Cole still. I think we can build around it, but only time will tell. But very, very happy with the trade, as you can see with talking about baseball when it's not even baseball season. So
I was just gonna say here we are. We've spent 32 minutes on the open here of the show talking baseball, and it's nice. It's nice to have some stories and some things to talk about. And we're not even in baseball season. So it's going to be a very, very interesting upcoming season. Hopefully some more storylines leading up to spring training in a couple months, but some good topics, good conversation already. So good opportunity for us to switch gears. We got a lot of football to talk, mostly NFL, but before we get into that, I want to give you your kudos. I want to give you your props. It's much deserved. It's a throwback to a couple
2 for 2 at that. Remember, I called Garrett Cole out too, so this is just a little bit of foreshadowing.
You did. You're nailing it. You're the oracle of stats and predictions right now. So I want to give you your kudos. So for those watching online, streaming us, you'll be able to see this. If not, listen for just a moment. This is a throwback to 3 weeks ago, a show we did talking about the Heisman Trophy.
Someone we haven't talked about at all this year on the show is Jalen Daniels from LSU. Not sure if you know too much about him, but they showed his stats last week. When Joe Burrow won the Heisman in 2019, Jalen Daniels has the exact same numbers and stats as Joe Burrow, if better. And he's also a front runner from the Heisman. He's a kind of like a Swiss Army knife. He's taller, he's skinny, but he can pass the ball and he can run the ball. So he's like a smaller version of Cam Newton that I would describe him as, meaning that Cam Newton was a little bit bigger, a little bit thicker, a harder runner, but Jalen Daniels, I think, is faster and a little bit more smarter with the ball than Cam Newton was. So that's my comparison, and he's a front runner for the Heisman as well. I wouldn't be surprised if he won the Heisman. If you want to mark that bad boy down, that's going to be my Heisman pick right now. Jalen Daniels, LSU.
Jaden Daniels,
LSU.
Yes.
And yes, we did mark that bad boy down. And for those of you who might not have seen it, this is what followed after that.
This is the moment you've been waiting for. So let's make some history. It is my great pleasure to announce that the 2023 Heisman Trophy winner is Jaden Daniels from Louisiana State University.
Yep. That's what we do, my friend. That's what
You
we
nailed
do.
it. You nailed it. Many, many kudos and props. You heard it here first. This is why you got to tune into this show. Dan's
Yep.
just throwing out winners and locks all over the place. He called Daniels for the Heisman 3-4 weeks ago. Spot on, my man. Good job. Well done.
Yep. Very, very cool stat too about that also is the last couple winners, they've all been transfers. So I don't know if you've been following college football with the break between the playoffs, but I saw a stat the other day that there's 131, give or take, Division I football teams, and there was 106 transfers, quarterback transfers in the transfer portal. So really, really crazy stat. And like I said, last year was Caleb Williams was a transfer. Kyler Murray was a transfer. Joe Burrow was a transfer. So the only one that in the last 5 years who wasn't a transfer was Bryce Young. So that's really interesting that a lot of these guys have been transfers because Jaden Daniels transferred from Arizona State. And then, Caleb Williams transferred from Oklahoma. Joe Burrow transferred from Ohio State. So it's really crazy. And everybody knows I'm an Irish fan. We just got Riley Leonard, the Duke quarterback, transferred in from Duke. So that's going to be a solid QB1 for us.
So I need you to get out your ruler and your chalk here. We're going to step into the virtual classroom and you're going to school me for a moment.
Oh, that's fine.
I have to ask, number one, I wanted to ask what you make of because I did see the stat of 100 some players, mostly quarterbacks in the transfer portal. So I'm curious what you make of that. But more than that, I'm curious, the transfer portal is relatively new, right? The last couple of years or so? Okay.
Yes.
So I've never been 100% clear on the purpose. And let me ask, so prior to the transfer portal, you're a fresh high school graduate, right? You commit to a school, you decide to go there, whether or not you get a scholarship, whatever, you want to play ball, you're going to be the starting quarterback or whatever on the team, right? You're not signing a contract. You're going to play at the school and get an education at the same time. Let's say the first year, whatever reason, this team doesn't do well, or you just don't want to go to school anymore. You can stop, you can transfer, you can apply to another school, right? There was nothing holding players and making them obligated to stay, right?
Yeah.
So that's my question with the transfer portal now. What does it give people? What does it do? What's the purpose? Are players now bound to schools when they decide to play? I don't get it. So school me here and give me the cliff notes of it.
I'll give everybody, I won't give any cliff notes, but I will give the whole 9 yards because I like to think that I'm a captain, a champion about this. So what happened was what you do if me and you were freshmen in college, we're seniors in high school. I'm a good quarterback. You're a good receiver. We go and schools recruit us and we sign a letter of intent, which means that we intend to go to, let's just say University of Notre Dame, right? We sign a letter of intent. They give us a 4-year scholarship and everything is paid for. And, we either one, we're going to go in as a true freshman and we're going to start right away, or two, we're going to go in as a freshman, but we're going to get redshirted, which means that we're still a freshman, but our eligibility per se is still a freshman, even though we're technically a sophomore. So we'll be a redshirt freshman and we can play as a redshirt freshman. However, if a lot of things that would happen, so going back about 5 years, the transfer portal has always been around. But if we wanted to transfer to, let's say, Florida State or Clemson, back about 5-6 years ago, we could do that, but we'd have to sit out a year. Meaning, if we transferred to Clemson, we'd have to go to Clemson and sit out a year and not play football because it was the waiting period that they called. But then I don't really know what changed it all, but COVID happened. So all these players gained an extra year of eligibility with COVID. And I believe NIL, which is National Image Likeness, is where the college football players get paid. Sponsorships, they get paid pretty much anything because, the college football is bringing in $1 billion a year. So these athletes said we should get a chunk of the change, and they're starting to get sponsorships. So now it changed to where if we're going to Notre Dame, we sign that letter of intent, and I'm a freshman, and then there's a guy named Greg Gross who's a sophomore who's a stud. I'm not going to be able to pass him, and I decide I want to transfer to, like I said, Florida State. I can do it right away and I can play the next year. I don't have to sit out. And then if I go to Florida State and then I decide, oh, this is not for me, I could transfer again and go to Clemson. And I want to say that you can only transfer 3 times. And then after that, you have to stay at the school and finish your eligibility. But then there's weird things like with COVID, what happened last year was Sam Hartman this past year, who was Notre Dame quarterback. He played 5 years at Wake Forest, gained an extra year of eligibility, and was a graduate senior, meaning that he already graduated and took a couple online classes. And then you can gain an extra year of eligibility because you're a graduate senior and then transfer to Notre Dame. So it's very, very confusing, but I think it's good in the long run because what these people would argue is, say if Nick Saban signed a letter of intent, not a letter of intent, but signed a contract for 5 years, the next year he can change school when he wants. And these players are saying, why can a coach leave, but I can't? So that's what made it where the transfer portal is you can leave out of your letter of intent and then not sit out a year and play right away, which I think is kind of cool because it makes college football like a free agent, kind of same with college basketball and college football. So I don't know if that gave you an understanding, if you have any questions, but that's kind of
It did.
my whole background of it.
No, that's awesome, thorough analysis
Yeah.
and breakdown of the transfer portal, including the background and the history. You kind of
Yeah.
you did answer my questions, and I think you nailed it right from the beginning. I should have known. Of course, it's about the money.
Oh yeah.
I knew that these commitments existed where players sign the LOIs and they are in a lot of cases are getting these full rides. I guess I just didn't really know the extent of it, but of course should have known. And of course it comes down to money. So I understand that, I guess, where the schools want the protection and they want to hold kids to their commitments. I get that. That's very reasonable, but I do think I agree with you where, players, student athletes should have the right to play where they want. I mean, contracts are made to be broken. Guys can back out of deals and maybe there's penalties for it, I guess. But I do believe that they should be able to move around if they want. At the end of the day, it should all be all about education first. And so if they want to pursue another school, especially for education and maybe for football alongside it, I think they should have that right. So that's a good a breakdown of it. I'm curious still, given what you just described and the understanding and the purpose of it, what do you make of the 100 players that are in there and the fact that they are mostly quarterbacks? Do you think there's a driving force behind it, a reason why that number's growing?
I mean, I just think that people see better opportunity. They see that maybe a senior is leaving and then there's a spot to pop right in there and be a perennial champion, especially also with what we talked about last episode with the 12-team playoffs. I mean, if you're on a decent team and you have a bunch of seniors on your team that are going to be leaving or graduating, why not transfer to a younger team that has some upside, like a Notre Dame, as I'm always going to say that, transfer to a Notre Dame, a perennial college football powerhouse, top 5 monster team. If I can keep going with all the adjectives if I needed to. But, why not leave Ohio State, or why not leave a senior-laden Florida State team where you're going to lose a bunch of your teams? So I think that's why they do that. And I just think that, the quarterback is very important in college football, as you've seen, as everybody has seen. So they just, I think it's interesting, but that was just a big number. I mean, there's a lot of running backs, there's a lot of wide receivers, a lot of offensive linemen, but the quarterback I think that they think they can just pop into a position and make it roll. That's why I think there's so many of them. I mean, look at Kyle McCord. I mean, we've talked about that idiot all year because he beat my Notre Dame boys, but I mean, he's transferring from Ohio State after, 3,500 yards, almost 30 touchdowns. He's transferred from Ohio State because they're losing Marvin Harrison Jr. They're losing a lot of their offensive line. So why play for Ohio State when you got no talent and transfer somebody that has talent? So that's another thing that I think goes into it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was going to ask, is the transfer portal, is there a cap to either how many players can enter it, or is there an order with which the transactions are processed? Is it first come, first serve? The first guy who enters and wants to join the portal gets his wish to move schools, or how does that work?
No, you can do it anytime you want. And what it does is it kind of resets as you're back as like a high school senior, and you go on recruiting visits and you visit coaches, you visit teams. So it's really, I mean, it is first come, first serve, but it's not because, if I wanted to transfer tomorrow and I was a quarterback, I was in college, I'd put my transfers in and I would go on my recruits. And then if I liked the team, then I would sign it like what Riley Leonard did today. So it's really just getting your name out there probably earlier. That way you can do more recruiting visits. You can meet with the coaches. You can meet with the team. But, yeah, I mean, I guess first come, first serve would be more of a beneficial just to get your name out there before anybody else. So
is there criteria to enter the portal? Like, what are the stipulations, or there is none? It's just a portal where it's just a list that you can put your name on if you want.
If you have eligibility, you can go in the transfer portal. So
what determines eligibility?
If you're like your years in college, so you usually have 4, maybe 5 years of college football in you. So if you're a 4th year senior, you can transfer and be a graduate senior. You'd have 1 year left. If you're a junior, you would have 2 years left. Sophomore, 3 years. Freshman, 4 years, and so on and so forth. So,
got it.
I mean, if you have eligibility and you feel like you can move your talents to another team, then you go on recruiting visits, and then it's just like you're a high school senior again.
Yeah.
So
makes sense.
It does. I mean, like I said, I kind of like it. I do like it before, because like I said, it makes it like free agency. And I like it that you don't have to sit out a year because, I mean, the coaches never had to sit out a year when they transferred schools or they got a new college or a new school. So
Yeah.
I think it's beneficial. I think it makes the game a little bit better. I mean, unfortunately, I'm give or take. I'm a catch-22 with my Irish. I like that we got Hartman last year. I like we got Leonard this year, but we got some 5-star recruits coming in. I want to see how these young players are going to be. So it's kind of, it takes away from the high school recruiting aspect, and it kind of puts it more in the college aspect of recruiting where, why would you want, a 5-star recruit's going to be good, but why not get a 3-year starter who's got proven track record? So it kind of, give and take is kind of what I'm getting at with the transfer portal.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. And like you said, if coaches can do it and they can move around, why can't the players? To me, that's reasonable. Yep. They want to be treated the same way. I mean, I talk a lot about how I feel that athletes or student athletes should be there to learn first and get an education.
Oh, yeah.
But let's face it, they are adults, and they're entitled to want the same thing that the adult coaches are getting, which is the freedom to move around. So I don't think there's anything unreasonable there.
Yeah. Yeah. And then just to give you one other thing, how the transfers used to be. So you used to, if you wanted to transfer right away, you'd either, like I said, have to sit out a year, or you'd have to put in a special letter saying that, you were mistreated. Like this happened a couple years ago with Justin Fields. He was at Georgia and he used to play baseball, and he was playing baseball, and obviously he was in the outfield, and he's a black athlete. So you can imagine what some of the fans were yelling at him. And he decided to transfer to Ohio State because he said he felt for his own safety, and he felt that people were racist in Georgia. So before it was sitting out a year, he got a special endorsement where he could play right away. So that's how it used to be, just to give you a little background on that as well. But now you can play instantly, but that's how it used to be.
That makes sense. Yeah. Where you have to have some kind of justification for why you want to leave.
But yeah, now you can play instantly, which I think is really cool. So
yeah, I agree. It's nice for them to have that option, that freedom. Seems like it's reasonable.
Yeah, definitely much so. So hopefully I enlightened some people. Maybe I enlightened you, or hopefully I enlightened some listeners.
You did.
It's definitely cool.
Yep, you definitely schooled me, and I do hope others found it educational as well. That's reasons why you tune in. So
yes, sir.
A lot of good content here. I didn't expect we start the show on the way we did on baseball, and had to spend some time giving you kudos for your correct prediction of the Heisman. I don't know that there's much to dig into yet coming up to the bowl games. It's kind of that waiting period, right? It's the holidays right now. There's other sports going on, and it's really just, we know what the matchups are right now. So not much has changed. I think just the intensity builds, the questions continue to swirl about what's going to happen, but we know that there's a couple good games out there. So I'm just waiting and seeing now and seeing what we get when those teams face off. Michigan and it's going to be a good battle with them in Alabama. I'm most looking forward to that one. But Texas, Washington is going to be a good one as well. So we got two good games on the slate coming up.
Yeah, we got those predictions, I think, too. I believe we gave those a couple weeks ago. So
we did. We got them. We got them on paper. Maybe we can revisit them next week as we get a little closer. We got those locked in. So we can. We can switch gears to a lot of NFL action. I know you got some stuff you want to talk about. There's something I want to talk about just briefly. It's making me laugh. I'll get some thoughts here in a moment. I was able to grab some clips. They're not video clips, but they're audio. So anybody watching or not watching, you're not going to miss anything. If you're listening to the podcast or a recording, you'll hear them. But I did want to play these, and it stems from the Chiefs game that happened this past weekend. Chiefs players, Patrick Mahomes they were not pleased with what went down, a call that didn't go their way. But I got some thoughts, especially on how Mahomes reacted and how he handled himself at the end of the game, and then even how he doubled down during his press conference and the interview he gave. And that's what I want to play here. So a couple clips here.
The thing is, I'd rather let us play, man. Like, let us play the game. And then whatever happens, happens. Like, the thing is, I'd rather let us play, man. Like, let us play the game. And then whatever happens, happens. Like, the thing is, I'd rather let us play, man.
I can't believe I heard that from Mahomes in his interview where he says, just let us play, and whatever happens, happens. They did let you play. Yeah. And what happened was your player was offsides. They made the right call. But for Patrick to say, and for him to say, let us play, well, Patrick, they did let you play, and that's what happened. Yep. So breaking down some of these clips just one by one, it's kind of baffling, especially when you consider that this guy, he's been the poster child for the league for the last several years, and for right reasons. The guy's a phenomenal athlete. He seemed to embody, all the things that we want in a superstar athlete, someone to represent the league. He seems like a role model, someone that kids can look up to. But this just seems so far out of left field and out of character for him. And there's a couple more I want to play. Here's one of them.
That's why, like last week, I didn't say anything because it's letting us play, man. Let us go out there and win the game. And I said I'd rather them let us play and go out there and see who wins. I mean, that's what you want as a competitor is you practice all week to go out there and try to win. And you want it to be about your team and that team and see what happens. You never want it to be. You don't want to be talking about this stuff after the game.
Yeah, agree, Patrick. Yep. Nobody wants to be talking about this. So then don't do it. Tell Kadarius Toney to line up on sides. Don't break the rules. I agree. I just can't believe this guy is saying this. I really can't. It just seems so out of character. And more than anything, it's just a bad look. The guy standing up there in front of reporters, he might as well have a binky in his mouth. The guy sounds like a gigantic baby, a sore loser. He's just whining up there, and we've never seen it from him. Part of me is thinking maybe we've never seen it because he's always been winning. Things have been going very well for him. He's very rarely had to face adversity or calls going against him. But in this case, the call went against him, and it was the right call. And I got one more clip here, and then I'll just kind of wrap it up.
The flag today was tough. Offensive offsides. It's something that, you as a like I said, elementary school, we talk about, you line up, you point to the ref, you're good, you're not good. If not, they come to you, hey, you need to get off the ball more, you need to be on the ball more. You have a discussion. That's the ref's job. You want to have an open discussion so that you can go out there and put the best product you can on the field. And for him to throw that flag, no explanation, no anything. And I saw the picture, and he probably is, barely offsides. But for him to take the game into his hands over a call like that doesn't affect the play at all, didn't affect anything. It's just tough, man. And like I said, man, that's a Hall of Fame tight end.
Yeah, it is tough, Patrick. You know what else is tough? The interview you just gave. Really tough to listen to. And he even admitted it. It was the right call. He was probably a little offsides. Case closed. They made the right call. And for him to double down and make remarks to playing backyard football and, when you're in elementary school, Patrick, do you know where you play football? You're not in elementary school. How old are you? You are a professional athlete. You get paid millions of dollars, my man. How is that even a comparison? This guy, I don't know if he got hit in the head with a rock or something during the game or what, but he just seemed to give his reaction at the end. He just seemed like he lost his rocker and was off his rocker rather. And I really felt like when the guy had an opportunity after the game to take a shower, get changed, collect his thoughts, that maybe cooler heads would prevail. He'd realize the error of his ways and sort of own up to it and take accountability for it. But he didn't. He doubled down and made these insane, innocuous references to the refs and how they could make these calls and the fact that it was the right call, but he didn't want them to take it into their hands. It's just, I've never seen that from him before. And I really I can't believe he doubled down the way he did. It's one thing when you're on the field, you're a competitor, you're a gamer. I get it. You want to win. But the post-game interview he gave, dude, bad look, man. Bad look all around. I'm not crucifying the guy. Everybody makes mistakes, but he's got to be called out for just how it looks. The optics of the thing, just bad all around. So
yeah, very much so. And going off what you said, I mean, he did double down on it, but I mean, what they were saying is Tony Romo, I don't know if he caught the end of it, but this could just be frustrations of the whole season, building at him, because we've mentioned Chiefs probably 4 or 5 times in the 12 weeks we've been doing this show. Their offense has been abysmal. I mean, they should be a better team, 8-5. So maybe all of these frustrations, all of the stupid plays, the non-receivers, the drop passes. I mean, the non-good wide receivers, the drop passes, probably eating at them. And that was a hell of a play to give to Travis Kelce, and then he threw a perfect spiral back to Tony. I mean, but end of the day, I know it's you're driving. Why not do an extra look down the line and say, hey, back up some, or, try to do something that you can fix. I get it that nobody wants the refs to be a factor in the game. Nobody wants that. But if you look at the stats, look at the video, you look at the still frame, it was blatant obvious. I mean, he was 4 or 5 yards, maybe 4 or 5 inches, maybe even like 2 yards ahead of everybody else. So imagine if they didn't call it, the Bills would be up in arms. What would Mahomes be? Oh, it was offsides, but we won. I mean, he's going to be a little baby about it as well. Yeah. But I think it's just a lot of everything coming down at him at once. I believe I believe he's getting pissed off at the offense. I believe he's pissed off he has no wide receivers, and for them to lose on that, I just think that. Yeah, it's
got to be a culmination of things for sure.
Oh, yeah, definitely,
it's all piling on, but don't take it on the refs. Don't take it on the refs. They made the right call. You're not going to have many supporters there, and I think the general consensus so far this week, yesterday and today, I think Mahomes is on an island. I don't think he has many supporters. I think a lot of people are seeing the same thing, and it's got to be tough for him because, like I said, he's been the poster child for this league for a long time. And this is probably one of the first times he's faced adversity and people weren't just slobbing all over him. You're going to get called out by the internet and the internet referees when you do something wrong. So I think he's sort of paying the price for that.
Yeah. I mean, maybe he realizes that he screwed up, but who knows if he's really going to come to his senses. But I don't know. It's just,
it could get even worse.
If
they lose next week.
I know 8-5, and if they lose again, they'll be 8-6. And it's just, like you said, for him to be the poster boy and for him to be bitching and complaining about such a obvious call, I think it's below him. And like I said, I just think everything is coming to fruition with all the frustrations of the year.
Yeah, we've talked about it all season long, but they've got multiple problems, but the wide receiver one is a big one, and they've not really done much to address that. We talked about what a void it is, losing a guy like Tyreek Hill. You can just replace on a whim. But they've got some problems, and it's right now it's getting worse, not better. So tough time to be a Chiefs fan out there, especially tough time to be Patrick Mahomes right now. But I did want to get to some news that broke about an hour or so ago. Looks like per NBC Sports Boston, Patriots insider Tom Curran's reported that apparently the decision's already been made by the Kraft family to part ways with Bill Belichick at the end of the season. That just broke maybe an hour or so ago. Still waiting for it to come out somewhere else. This is just an article I read, but it looks like that might in fact be the case. We talked about it a number of times on this show, given the season that the Patriots are having. I know they won this past week, but things are bleak over there in New England. And I know you thought Belichick was going to probably be back, or at least he would have the opportunity to stay as long as he wanted. I wasn't sure. I kind of thought the Kraft family would have a short leash, and it seems like that's the case. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where they go from here. Who takes over for Belichick, and whoever that guy is, that's some enormous shoes to fill. I mean, this season aside, obviously, but somebody is going to take that job, and expectations are high given what the fans and the organization have had for the better part of 2 decades.
Yeah, I mean, who knows where they go? I mean, I don't know if they, stay in house and promote my Uncle Bill O'Brien to coach, or they just clean house altogether, because a lot of those guys have had to have been with him for months, 10 years. All the assistants, at least his son has been with them for a lot. Bill O'Brien, give or take, he's probably been close to 10 years on and off. So I don't know if they just clear house and go the college route or go a young coach, but it's going to be very interesting. And like I said, like you said, I thought he'd be able to write his own ticket and either, 1, resign, or 2, retire and not pretty much get fired, because I want to say a couple weeks ago, didn't we hear on Boomer and Gio that he signed an extension? Don't you remember they were talking about that? So I don't know what that was about, which is kind of interesting. When I heard that report tonight, I was thinking that, I listened to Boomer and Gio, and they were saying, Belichick signs an extension. So I don't know where that came from or what that's about. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. We have to try to dig that up. I'm reading some of the comments here, the reaction on Twitter, and somebody brings up an interesting point. They kind of mentioned what we mentioned, Belichick getting the axe before he has the opportunity to get a franchise quarterback number 1, somebody to really take over for what he had with Brady. And obviously you can't just create those guys out of thin air, but does he deserve that opportunity to try to find that guy and build around him? I don't know. Maybe not. The bigger question I have is, assuming they do actually get rid of him, we know it's going to be tough for them to find someone else. What does Belichick do now? Because we know he's been chasing that record. He's trying to run down Shula for the most wins all time. Does he land somewhere else? You can't imagine he's going to take any position other than head coach. So does he land somewhere else? And if he does, where does he go? Looking at the opportunities out there, the teams that either already have vacancies. This is just an example, but I know the Raiders lost or fired their coach, and now Antonio Pierce has taken over as the interim. That's an example where they don't have a guy yet and ready to take over the helm. So where does Belichick land? Do you think he just hangs him up and settles for second all time in wins, or does he try to continue that pursuit? He's not a spring chicken. That's the reason I mentioned it. I mean, to start over with another organization, I don't know. I don't know if I see it in his future.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting too, because I think I mentioned this before. People have always said he can't win without Brady, and look, he hasn't won without Brady since he's been gone. He had Brady for 20 years, and they won 6 championships. And without Brady, he's gone to the playoffs 1 year and missed the playoffs 2 years, I want to say. So, I think this might be another a Dan O'Brien call out. I think he goes to the Chargers and goes with Justin Herbert and builds around Justin Herbert. So that's just a little inkling that I have in the back of my head that he goes to the Chargers.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Cause it sounds like Staley's he's not been officially fired, right? I didn't miss anything, but he's on the hot seat. I think
We
all
know
can
how
agree.
much you love Staley, so yeah, pretty sure he's gone.
Yeah, I think that
Staley's
guy
like your
is.
Harbaugh for me. The scumbag Harbaugh is
Yeah.
Staley for you.
Yep. Yep. I'm waiting to get some clips and we can play them as drops. I want to quote you with your love for Harbaugh, and you can
Oh, we can.
do the same with me with Staley, because he's a guy. I just wonder how he still has a job, because things just look really bleak. And I know they did they get a win this week? No, they didn't. They got blasted.
And
It's
Harbaugh and Herbert's out for the rest of the year. I don't know if you saw that. It came out
That's
today
what it
too.
was. Yeah, Herbert.
Yeah.
So things are going downhill fast
So
for the
you might get
Chargers.
your wish.
Yeah, the one game I wanted to mention, I going through the scores, I forgot this actually happened, because we had a 6-0 game last week. I think it was the Pats who I think they lost. Was it the
Chargers.
Steelers? Chargers. Okay.
Yeah.
They got shut out 6-0. Just when you think it couldn't get any more low scoring, we get a 3-0 Vikings Raiders game this weekend. I mean, how does that happen? Just
Oh yeah.
absolutely brutal football it must have been to watch that game. Both teams, the Vikings get a win out of that game is unbelievable, and they
Oh, I know.
a much needed win, because in a week that the Lions actually lost, the Packers lost, suddenly the Vikings win a game 3-0, and they're right back in the conversation. It's amazing.
Yeah, very, very interesting. I had a stat that I wanted to take that I took from Sunday. I took it from Pro Football Talk. It was on Twitter, and it said, per the Fox broadcast, Vikings Raiders and Texans Jets are the first time 2 games were scoreless at half on the same day since 1988. So that
Which
was a
game?
very so the Vikings Raiders and Texans Jets are the
Mhm.
first time 2 games were scoreless at half on the same day since October 30th, 1988. So I thought that was a
surprises
very
me.
interesting stat.
It is. That surprises
Yeah.
me that doesn't happen more often. It surprises me when games end with such few points, but it doesn't necessarily surprise me, because teams get off to cold, slow starts every now and then.
Yep.
And when you look at that's another game I wanted to bring up, the Houston and Jets game. As a CJ Stroud fantasy owner, I'm disappointed in what happened there, and especially him getting hurt makes me a little nervous. But if you watch that game, the weather was horrible. It was
Oh, it was horrible. Yeah.
raining. It was pouring, not just raining, but absolute downpour most of the game. No excuse. I mean, credit to the Jets. They did what they had to, and they put up 30 points, probably the most points they've put up in a very long time. But those types of games happen when the weather's terrible. You get these low scoring games. So I'm surprised that there's not been 2 other games simultaneous on the same weekend that have been 0-0 at the half.
Yeah, and look at 36 points were scored in the second half. That's a wild stat in itself.
Exactly. That's all the
that's
more
a wild
reason why
Yeah.
teams can start slow and then all of a sudden just go nuts. They make halftime adjustments and they put up a ton of points after. So it surprises me when the games end with such few points, but it doesn't necessarily surprise me when they get to halftime with such few points. But that's interesting.
Yeah, and then talking on that game, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but yeah, they're saying. I mean, look at Zach Wilson, 301 yards, 2 touchdowns. They're saying that that's the best game that he's played in his career. So maybe his benching from Tim Boyle might have kicked him in the ass and said, I either need to put up or shut up, and this is my last chance. So, I mean, we've talked about the Texans all year. They're not a horrible team. I mean, they were 7-5 coming into the game. And rainy weather, to throw for 301 yards and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions in that rainy weather, that's a pretty solid game for Zach Wilson.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
There's 2 games that I want to ask you, just rhetorical questions. You probably have thoughts, but what the hell is going on in Detroit and in Miami? I mean, we usually we lead off with a recap of MNF usually when we do these shows on Tuesday, and there were 2 really, I would say,
I got a bunch on Miami
last night. If they weren't good, they were certainly interesting. So start with the Miami one real quick. To be honest, it was late. I was getting ready. I was part of me was falling asleep. I was seeing the scores. I was watching the Giants game, so I was catching the scores on my phone and seeing what was going on. And 2 minutes left or whatever it was, I saw that the Dolphins were up whatever, how many points, double digits or something, and I just assumed it was over. And just to see that they actually lost was incredible. So what the hell is going on in Miami? I don't get it.
Yeah, I have a bunch on Miami. I know
Let
they
me
were
hear it.
rhetorical questions, but I wanted to speak on the Dolphins. They are 9-4, and I just want to go ahead and run down their wins. Chargers, we know they suck. New England, they suck. Denver, they've been playing good of lately. Lost to Buffalo, who's playing really well. Giants, also, who have been some suspect. Carolina, lost to Philadelphia, beat New England, lost to Kansas City, beat Las Vegas, beat the Jets, and beat the Redskins. So it looks like any good team that they have besides Denver, they haven't played anybody. They haven't beaten anybody that's got a good record.
They haven't
So
beat anybody good. Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. So they're 9-4, but they're really should be a 500 team. I don't think they're that good of a team. I mean, they have the offense. Their defense is suspect. And as of last night, you saw what happened when Tyreek Hill comes out of the game. Their offense goes suspect. Their offense goes, pretty shitty. So
Yeah.
I don't think that they're anything to mess with. I mean, they play Baltimore here in the next couple of weeks. Baltimore should smoke check them. I don't think they're that good of a team. And I also wanted to read this other stat that I found that was pretty interesting. Let me just get it real quick. So where's this? So until the Titans come back, since 2017, NFL teams trailing by 14 or more points with under 3 minutes were 0-82 or 0-5-82. So that's one of the craziest stats that I've ever, seen. Like I said, first team to win by trailing by 14 points in their 3 minutes remaining since Saints in Week 11 in 2017 against Washington. So 0-5-82 for them to lose up by 14 under 3 minutes. That just shows the caliber of their team. I think they're trash. I think that their offense is good, but I think they're trash. When put up comes up, I think against good teams they're going to be smoke checked out of the first round. I don't know what your thoughts is on Miami, but
it certainly looks that way. It's kind of shocking when you look at the talent they have, but like you said, when one guy goes out, they're not quite the same. And I just saw the scrolling ticker watching the TV here, and it looks like they lost their starting center for the season too. So that ain't going to make things get any better. So
yeah,
trouble in Miami for sure. And it's interesting because early on in the season they looked like world beaters. Granted, we know now that the teams that are beating up weren't anything special, but they really just looked like one of the deepest and sharpest teams out there.
Yeah, but they do when they don't beat any good teams, that's what happens. You're 9-0 against 500 teams and 0-4 against teams over 500.
Yeah.
And we usually know what happens in the playoffs. Teams over 500 are in the playoffs. So, what does that tell you? They're going to go out in the first round.
Yeah. Yeah. It certainly looks like that. Trouble in Miami for sure. And the other one, like I said, Detroit. I don't get it.
Oof.
I know it was just a few weeks ago that Fields came back, and he truly looks like he's a difference maker for the Bears. I don't know how much better he makes them, but they clearly he's a gamer. He's got the legs and he can move the ball. They've got some weapons, DJ Moore, and those two seem to have a connection. Even Cole Kmet, they seem to have a decent connection too. So he's a difference maker for sure. And a couple weeks ago, the Bears were up late in the game, and kind of like the collapse in Miami last night, that the Bears imploded and the Lions were able to come back just barely and get the win. Didn't know if that was going to happen this past weekend. It obviously didn't. But I'm just still surprised that the Lions, I guess, didn't really learn anything. I know they were on the road, but they don't have the division locked up. We mentioned that, obviously Green Bay lost last night, but the Vikings are just 2 games behind. So I can't believe the Lions lost the way they did. As much as we pay homage to Dan Campbell on this show, I don't know that they've got it all figured out, that they've got the weapons. Goff is an interesting character. Some weeks he looks great. Other weeks he looks very, very pedestrian. I think it was Thanksgiving where he started off terrible. I think he had the fumble and the pick on back-to-back drives. He's just completely hot and cold. So I don't know what to make of the Lions. And if you're a Lions fan, it's got to be concerning at this point in the season. We're getting down to the end here, the final 20, 25% of the season. you want your team to be going up on this trajectory. You want to be stringing together impressive wins, kind of like the Ravens are doing now, like the 49ers are doing, Dallas is doing. There are teams now who look like they've figured it out and they're heading in the right direction. These other teams that we're talking about, it's going south quickly.
Yeah, and it kind of begs the question on Jared Goff. If he's under pressure, he kind of just looks like crap, and that's what's happened. The Green Bay Packers Thanksgiving game, that's what happened against the Bears this past weekend. Similar, if he's getting pressure, he's going to force the ball. He's going to go back to his old Rams days when he got traded. So maybe he just folds under pressure. And, to lose to the Bears, which we know how the Bears have been so inconsistent, but to lose to the Bears and like I said, you said the division's not wrapped up. I mean, they have a good team, but do they really have a good team? Or they just have, kind of played like the Miami Dolphins have and, beat up on their schedule and, beat up on teams that they should. And when push comes to shove, maybe they're just not ready either. They, how we always say in hockey, you need a couple of years to go in the playoffs to make a run. So maybe the Dolphins, maybe the Lions, they need a couple of years to get a little grass under their cleats and make a run. So
yeah,
they got to cut very interesting first. Exactly. Sure. So it's going to be interesting, and I think the Lions will obviously win the division because I heard this morning Nick Mullins is now starting for the Vikings. Dobbs is out, so that's who knows what's going to happen there. I mean, they got Jefferson back, but he took a really hard hit and he had a chest injury, so who knows if Jefferson's going to be back for the Vikings. So they should wrap up the division easily, but again, it could be like the Dolphins, a one and done, go to the playoffs and get knocked out in the first round.
Yeah, I saw that Dobbs was not just out, but benched. He's not hurt. I think they actually just benched him.
Yeah, they benched him.
Performance.
Yeah,
I can't say that it's necessarily unwarranted given his play, but I am a little surprised considering they traded for this guy. What, 6-7 weeks ago? I mean, it's not been that long. I mean, there were just a few weeks ago we were talking about how the guy was playing so well given the limited amount of time and practice that he's had. And now here we are, he has a couple clunker weeks and you bench the guy. I mean, that's just going to send mixed signals. You traded for this guy mid-season when your starting QB went down. I think you got to have a longer leash for this guy. You got to let him go through the growing pains. Cause is he, keep me honest here, is he a rookie this year or was he a rookie last year?
No, he's been in the league 8 years.
Did we already talk about this? Maybe he was the guy that surprised me.
Yes, sir.
We have. Okay, so he's the one that I was thinking. He was the one that I thought was a rookie. I don't know why I keep going back to that. Even still, you bring this guy in and you bench him after just a couple weeks. I don't get it because what are you getting with your third string now that you're not getting in Dobbs? He's going to take you to the promised land all of a sudden? I don't see
look
it.
Look at the last 2 weeks. Remember the Monday night against the Bears? He had 4 interceptions. Then he had the bye week, and then he didn't put up any points against the Raiders. So they had to bring Mullins in to get 3 points. So, I mean, the coaches probably know Mullins more, which is what I've read, that, he's been in the system longer than Dobbs, which makes a lot of sense, which he has.
Yeah.
So they could just be more comfortable with Nick Mullins, and Dobbs could just be forcing it, and the fairy tale ends, So
yeah, that's a good point. I was thinking that given I forgot Dobbs' age, and I guess they brought him in truly just as a stopgap to try to put a Band-Aid on the season.
Which they did for like 2 weeks. I ran them.
Yeah. I guess the Vikings just think that they're in win now mode, which I don't know. I just don't see it, especially when they were without Jefferson. You lose Jefferson, you lose your starting quarterback. Kudos to you if you try to piece it together. But we see all the time these other teams sort of just kind of throw in the towel. At least it appears that way. I'm surprised the Vikings honestly just didn't do that because what they're doing now is not working. The expectation can't be that Mills is going to take you to the playoffs or beyond. It's just bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, I guess just being at 7-6, they're trying to squeeze everything out of the orange, As the old saying goes. Yep.
Yeah, they're very, very fortunate that they played the Raiders, who mustered up a total of 0 points. I mean, because it could be flipped. They'd be 6-7, and they'd be barely clinging to a playoff spot. So they are the benefactors of some good fortune and a pretty bad Raiders team. Wanted to talk about another game just real briefly. while we're on the subject of what's going on with certain teams, I don't think there's any reason necessarily to hit the panic button, but a big game that we saw this past weekend was Philly and Dallas, and we heard from our buddy. Shout out to Ryan Kalager, who's watching us now. We appreciate your support, buddy.
Yeah.
If I'm Ryan and other Eagles fans, I'm not hitting the panic button yet. But the Eagles have slowed down a little bit. Another team who looked like they had a stranglehold on certainly the NFC in the beginning of the season, maybe the league as a whole. They looked like that de facto number one, but now there's other teams who are in the conversation. To me, it's always been San Fran, even when they had their little blip in the road. But I think there's a team like the Ravens who are in that conversation, and maybe even Dallas has vaulted themselves in the conversation. I don't see how you could not think that, given that they just beat the Eagles, and I think they'll play each other one more time, if I'm not mistaken. Was that their second time meeting this year already, or was it the first?
Yep, that was their second time. So,
Okay.
yeah, the Eagles beat them a couple weeks ago in Philadelphia. And
Got it.
the interesting stat that I've been reading and hearing is if the Eagles win out, they'll still win the division because they have an easy schedule. But
Yeah. Well, they
you know,
played
the
the Giants twice, so that could be 2 wins right there.
exactly, and they play the Cardinals too, I believe, as well. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, they're just, the Eagles, maybe they got a wake up call. I mean, they've kind of been skating through the season. Last year they skated through the season, not skated through it, but, had a really good record last year. They were, 10-1 up till 2 weeks ago. And, giving up 76 points to the Cowboys and the 49ers. I mean, those are the two upper echelon teams of the NFC. But maybe it's a good slap in the face that they needed because, like I said, they just been, maybe, tippy toeing and thinking that they own it. They're going to have an easy way back to the Super Bowl. So I think the rest of the season, they're going to be good. They're probably going to win the division. I don't know if they get the first number one overall seed because the 49ers are just rocking and rolling at that moment. But I don't think we throw the towel in on the Eagles. I think they still have a really good team. They have a good coaching staff. They have a really good defense, and they have a good offense. So I just think the Cowboys are playing really, really well. And you've mentioned it. I've mentioned it. They're a different team at home. The Cowboys are. I don't know for whatever reason, but they're a different team at home. They're 7-0 at home, and they're outscoring teams by probably like 25 at home.
Yeah, it's amazing to see how their offense is just clicking and taking nothing away from the defense because I think they're performing well on both sides of the ball, but their offense is on another level, like you said, especially at home. I've never been the biggest Dak fan or supporter, but
me neither.
It's hard to ignore what the guy's doing. Him and Lamb just look almost unstoppable out there. They are just so in sync and hard to beat. It reminds me of, what we've seen out of Mahomes and Kelsey, even going back to like Brady and Gronk. They just seem like they're in tune and in sync and really, really hard to stop. It's making for really, in my opinion, some interesting headlines down the stretch because, again, it looked like the Eagles had this locked up and they were the de facto number one, but credit to Dallas for vaulting themselves right back into the mix. It's going to be interesting last couple games.
Yeah, exactly. And, we're rocking and rolling right around almost hour and 23 minutes, but wanted to mention the 49ers. I heard a really interesting stat this morning that whenever Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, and Deebo Samuel, whenever they play and they're all healthy, they're 17-0, which I thought was a really interesting stat that, they're in for the long haul and they play well together. So I thought that was pretty cool to hear that. And they're just rocking and rolling. I don't know if anybody can beat them. I think they had those 3 hiccups when they were, not healthy without Deebo and Brock Purdy being a little iffy, but they're all 100%. And I don't see who stops them because their offense is on point. Their defense is on point, and they might just be on a zip line to the Super Bowl, if I had to say.
Yeah, I agree. When you consider the depth and the stars and the talent on that team, when they're all healthy, like you said,
17-0.
Beat them? Yeah, how they don't get beat. So that's the magic question, I guess, is can they stay healthy? Because we've seen some of their guys go down already. We've seen McCaffrey, Deebo, Brock, all struggle with some injuries. So it's a question of health. But they're healthy now, and like I said earlier, they're one of those teams who the trajectory is pointing up on the board. So I think to me, if I had to pick a team that the NFC is going to run through the road to the Super Bowl, it looks like San Fran, but they don't have it locked up. They're 10-3. They're sitting at the same record with the Eagles and the Cowboys. So
they got the
really,
tiebreaker.
really some good football down the road here. I think we're going to get.
They got the tiebreaker on both of those. So if they all finish the same record, they'll get the number 1 seed because they beat them head to head.
Yeah. Probably I'm getting thirsty before we take a break and do our beer reviews. I gotta give just a quick shout out. Again, I don't want to spend too much time just because number one, I don't want to jinx it. Number two, I don't want to give the impression that I'm under any delusions. But the other game last night, man, my boys out there, my boys.
Yeah.
Yep. The passing Paisan, DeVito does it again. It's pretty special what that guy's doing.
Tommy Cutlets, they call him. Tommy Cutlets.
Yeah. I'm not under any delusions. If Jones were healthy or if he comes back next year, and I don't know that DeVito is going to be the starter and usurp him of that role, but I can no longer deny what the guy's doing, and it's given me, not that I am completely tuned out, but I would say that my expectations were realistic a few weeks ago in terms of what I felt we were going to get out of the rest of this season. And I still don't, if I'm a betting man, I am a betting man. I'm not placing any bets on the Giants to make the playoffs or do anything crazy, but it's been pretty interesting that they've been able to keep up this pretty incredible story. We all know the reasons of why it's special. DeVito's a hometown guy, and I just gotta give him the credit where it's due. Yesterday he played near mistake-free football. No interceptions. He's holding on to the ball. He's dealing with the pressure as well as I think you could deal with it. He seems like he's having fun out there. There was a quote, I think at the end of last night when the game was over, that I wanted to try to grab. I'll see if I can find it next week. Hopefully I'll continue to play it if they string more wins together. But he said something to the effect of, they asked him how he deals with the pressure and he doesn't seem to get rattled. And he made a comment that he's just having fun and he feels like a kid. He said he's been playing football since he was 5 and he just goes out there and tries to have fun and lets the rest of it kind of play out as it will. And I thought that was a great answer. I mean, that's why I think people get into sports in the beginning, their love of the game. And it seems like even though he's a pro now and he's still early, obviously, in his career, he's held true to that. He's just out there having fun. It shows on the field, and it's just been a pretty cool story that has been enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, real quick on him before we, because I'm getting thirsty myself, but I don't know if you know the backstory on him. You know, he's Livingston, New Jersey, a local dude. Came from Illinois, but before that, he was at Syracuse. Talking about the transfer portal, he played, I want to say, 3-year starter at Syracuse and then transferred to Illinois. So I think coming back home really helps him because he was pretty good at Syracuse before he transferred to Illinois. So I want to say playing in front of his home fans, his home, his family and his friends, I think it really is helping him. And, he's just not doing anything stupid. Last night he didn't force anything, which is half the battle, as we've watched in football. Don't force anything and, control your controllables, as anybody would say.
Yeah, 100%. It's cool. He's living up to the pressure. All the other guys that we talk about who are not Dobbs but Goff and some of those other guys that are cracking under it. And DeVito's dealing with it. It's pretty awesome. So
Tommy Cutlets.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, man, look at us. We're an hour and a half in, and we haven't even stopped to catch our breath. But I'm getting thirsty. I know you are. So, sounds like
I got a delicious beer coming. Beer coming. Yeah.
All right. Take a quick break. When we come back, we'll jump right into our beer segment, our beer reviews that we do every week, and have some more thoughts before we wrap up. So, we'll be back in a few.
Yep.
couple beautiful girls tell me goodbye. Trucks break down, dogs run off, politicians lie, been fired by the boss. It takes one hand to count the things I can count on. No, there ain't much man that ain't ever let me down. Long neck, ice cold beer never broke my heart. Like diamond rings and football teams have torn this boy apart. Like a neon dream, it just don't know me. The bars in this guitar. And long neck, ice cold beer never broke my heart.
Oh yeah,
Man,
Go.
I do not like country music, but that song pops. I'll tell you what, dude. I'll tell you
I
what.
get fired up seeing how it fires you up. The song,
I know,
the
you like that?
segment, everything. Yep.
Could you
I
imagine
love
people could see that video? Because I'm rocking and rolling when that song's going.
it. Yeah. I know it. It's awesome. Brings a smile to your
yeah.
face. Brings a smile to mine.
Oh, yeah.
So, our weekly beer review. I think you went first
I think I'm
last
up.
week. You're up. Okay.
Yeah, I'm up. I'm very
Okay.
excited about this beer. So, what we have here is a beer from King State
Does that say
Brewing.
you lose? You lose
It
some.
says you lose some, win some, you lose some. Wit beer
Okay.
from King State Brewing. It's actually in St. Petersburg, Florida. I want to go there. It's I don't know if a friendly listener, Kellogg's, will tell us 1776 11th Avenue North, St. Petersburg, Florida.
Okay.
So it's a wit beer with Indian coriander and fresh orange zest. So it's a flavored wheat ale. I am super excited about this beer because you know me, I love me some wheat beers, and this just sounds amazing.
What's the ABV?
5%.
5%. Okay. Okay.
Oh yeah, look at that color. Oh yeah. Oh
That
my
looks like
gosh, the smells.
Yeah.
The smell on this beer is intoxicating. Holy
It's a
moly.
pretty. It looks from here. It looks like a pretty deep golden yellow, maybe a touch of amber, but pretty. It looks like a pretty solid golden color. Is that right?
Yeah, looks like a summer shanty. You know what a summer shanty looks like?
Mhm,
That's what that looks
mhm.
like. Holy
Okay.
moly. So smelling it right away, I can smell that orange zest and that Indian
Mhm.
coriander, and you can get the wheats. So let's give it a taste. Holy hell. Jeez Louise. That might be the best beer that I've had so far on our 12 weeks.
I
Wow.
could tell the way that it hit
Oh
your
my
lips
God.
and your reaction. I could tell this was going to be a good one.
Wow. So first you get a burst of orange, then you get some coriander, some more spice, and then you get that wheat, and then you just get the smoothness. That's going to be the first 9.0 beer right there, my friend.
Oh, a 9.
Yeah.
The first
Yeah.
9.0.
Wow.
Wow.
Holy moly.
9.0, breaking the Richter scale. 9.0. Wow.
Holy shit, that's good.
So that's in St. Pete, right?
St.
The
Pete,
brewery?
we have to check it out. We have to check it out.
We have to check it out. We got to visit
Holy
them live
shit.
in person, and I got to have what you just tried
Wow.
and gave it 9.0. So I like it.
Holy hell, that's good.
Man, now I'm jealous. I want my beer to be
Wow.
as good as that.
Wow. I can't even get enough of it. Wow.
All right. Well, now I got big shoes to fill, and I don't know. Been a couple weeks now. I've been saying this. I've been going a little bit off the wall here and out in left field. This is from Hoosier Brewing Company. Never heard of it before. It's a fruited sour ale, and it says on the bottom strawberry birthday cake soft serve. So that is
Oh,
why
boy.
I picked this, because it looks like a beer with a lot of flavor, almost like a dessert beer, but I'll try to hold it up to the camera and see if you can see this. Some of
Who
the
makes it again?
artwork. It's what?
Who makes it again?
It's from Hoosier Brewing Company, and it says Fruit Fusion the Phoenix. I don't know what that means, but it's It's a fruited sour ale, and it says strawberry birthday cake soft serve. I'm trying to find the ABV, which I couldn't find it last week, I think. And once again, I've got a can that does not have it. I
Weird.
don't, yeah, I don't get it. There is no ABV on this that I can spot for whatever reason. So I cannot tell you what that is, but it's interesting. On the back, it says roll me gently and keep cold, drink soon. So I'm going to do this, which I think might help. We'll see.
Put it on your table and roll it like this. Like put it sideways and roll it like that.
I think.
Don't open it yet. Yeah. I've done beers like that before because there's a
All right.
sediment at the bottom. There's a sediment at the bottom that helps it mix. Yep, just like that. Friend of the show, Chris Dolan, will agree if we can talk to him. He'll tell you. That should be good.
Okay, we'll see.
Yep.
That one popped a little bit. We'll see.
Hey.
Wow. On the can, this thing is extremely amber color. Wow. Oh boy. This is going to be interesting. Oh boy.
Oh boy, railroad tracks, clogs.
Wow.
Holy moly, that looks
This is,
more. That looks more red than amber. No.
It's red. The velvety birthday cake, whatever it is, just
Yeah.
came out, and I think you're right. I think there's
That's why you
definitely
wanted to roll it.
some sediment or something that probably sat a little bit.
That's why they wanted you to roll it. I'm going to go ahead and
Yeah.
say this is going to be an under 8 beer. You're going to call it like a 7.5.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, this almost looks like a Bloody Mary almost.
Looks like a strawberry milkshake. Looks like a strawberry daiquiri.
Well, I think that's sort of the point. I mean, it says it on there, and that's why I picked it. Strawberry birthday cake soft serve.
What's it
I don't know
smell
why
like?
I do this to myself, but I'm being true to live reviews. So bottoms up, wish me luck.
What's it smell like?
It's got a cake aroma to it, that's for sure. Wow. It's not as bad as I was fearing when I poured this sucker. I mean, it came out red. Even on the glass, the size of the glass, you can see the sediment, which I mean,
Yep.
it's probably normal, honestly. That's giving it all this flavor. This is definitely a birthday cake. Let me give it one more. This is as unique as a beer I've tried. 12 weeks in now. This is absolutely the most unique one. Damn. It's really good. It's
Really?
it's a dessert beer. If you want to try something that's packed full of flavor and it's sweet. It's really, really sweet and flavorful. It's like a candy. It's like a dessert. It's damn good. I can't give it a 9 like yours as much as I want to because it's so far out there. It makes it tough to repeat this. I would get it again, to be honest, and I would recommend it. I can't go
Damn.
9 like you. Yeah, it's solid. I'm gonna give him an 8.5 for being able to pull
Okay.
this off. It's very solid. It's not going to be for everybody, but if you like sweet beers with some flavor and like a great after dinner dessert kind of beer, give this baby a try. From Hoosier Brewing Company, Fusion the Phoenix Strawberry Birthday Cake Fruited Sour Ale.
Is it in
Pretty
Greenwood,
good.
Indiana?
It is. Yep. I was just
All right.
looking at the back.
All right, let's see what we got here.
One U.S. pint brewed and canned at Hoosier Brewing Company, Greenwood, Indiana. That's
All
exactly.
right, I'm looking up their website real quick.
See if you
if I
can
can-
find the ABV for me. If I had to guess, it's probably like a 4.5 or a 5. I don't think it's anything higher than that, just because of what's in this.
All right, let's see.
But
On tap.
damn good. Damn good. I was really nervous. I mean, look at this color. This is wild.
You called it. What's it called?
Fusion the Phoenix, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Can't
They
find
must
it?
not have it. No, they don't have it on tap. But they do have one called a Chubby Bunny, Apple Pie, a big fruit fusion.
Yeah,
Bigfoot.
that's it.
5.5% ABV.
Okay, that was close. That
Yep,
was
there it
close.
is. Fruit fusion. And yeah, there it is. It's a sour ale with blackberry, raspberry, and soft serve ice cream. You taste that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, look, I can't get over this color. I really
Yeah,
can't.
that's what I'm seeing too.
I don't know
That's
that I've
wild.
seen a beer with that deep of a red. I mean, we talk about I'm not a big porter guy, and even some of the seasonal blueberry beers that have distinct colors. But damn, this is true to its name and description. So hey, we picked some good beers this week. So cheers, my man.
Cheers, brother. Cheers, man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I really thought you were going to go under an 8 on that one, so you proved me wrong, my friend.
No, I couldn't. That would be disrespectful to the beer because, like I said, not for everyone, but it's damn good. That is a nice beer. Wow,
Nice.
really
Very
like
cool.
it. Yeah, very deserving of the 8.5. So hey, high marks from us today. Good stuff.
Yeah.
We picked
Yeah.
some good beers. So we're long. We went long on our open before we took our break. So we don't have too much time left, but there's some things we want to get in. Of course, we're going to get our picks as we always do for
Yep.
this upcoming NFL week. I wanted to spend a moment. We can talk hockey if you want. I wanted to actually spend a moment just real quick and talk NBA for a second. I had to take a quick look. I saw, two things. Number one, I saw the in-season tournament came to a conclusion, right? And the Lakers won. It looked like LeBron was pretty successful, right? I mean,
Yeah, Lakers won.
so with them taking home the victory, it didn't seem like there was a whole lot of fanfare or hoopla. And it seems like the sentiment is that they're going to do this every year moving forward now. Do you get that sense that they already announced that, or do you know if it
Yeah.
was just
No, what they're going to try to do is I kind of got a little more information on it while it was going on. Obviously, the winners, everybody gets $500,000. What they're trying to do, which I figured what they were trying to do, but what they're really trying to do is make the middle of the season more interesting than just every single game going out there. And from what I heard, LeBron actually took this very seriously, and a lot of the players took it very seriously because they had an extra motivation, because how LeBron put it is he wanted to be the first team to ever win something, and they're the first team to ever win the in-season NBA tournament, and that's kind of what pushed LeBron and pushed the Pacers and the Lakers to really make it competitive, and that's kind of what I was getting out of it. I know you're shaking your head over there, but I think I know what you mean. These guys are divas, but from what I've seen is I believe LeBron wanted to make the most of it, and he wanted to win an inaugural something, which I can kind of get behind. I mean, I know a lot of people are going to give me shit on this one, but I have no problems with LeBron James. I mean, throughout, I'll keep this quick, but throughout his whole career, he's been an utmost character. He's really done nothing wrong. You never hear his name in any bad publicity, any bad anything. I mean, I think he's an all-time great, and he's a good individual. I mean, look what he's doing with his son, Bronny, and then look his other son, Bryce. And he's still married to his original wife, who's got the 3 kids with him. And I don't know, I just think he's an utmost citizen. But I might get some shit on that one, but I just think that he pushed a lot of people in that tournament, and they are going to do it every year. But they were talking about, I think Jim Rome said they should make it where if you win the tournament, maybe not Jim Rome, but it was PTI. If you win the tournament, you should be guaranteed a spot in the playoffs. I think that'd be pretty cool if they did that in the future. But that's here nor there.
Yeah, that's interesting. To me, that's the best way to describe something like that, is interesting, because it definitely adds another element and a twist. But I don't know. Me personally, I guess I just have to face facts. I'm too much of a traditionalist. I guess I do hate the idea of this. And I cringe when I hear you say that they're doing this to make the middle of the season more interesting. It's like, damn, if that's not an indictment of your sport
Oh, I
as a
know.
whole, I don't know what is. I would have thought I would have heard baseball say that first, because we all know that baseball is just having massive problems with attendance lately the last several years. It seems like, kids are not following it. It's a more difficult sport to stay in tune with for a lot of reasons, how long the games used to be, how long the season is. So I could expect that out of baseball, but basketball, you got to make the regular season more interesting. Shorten the season then. Don't
I
make
know.
this mid-season meaningless.
I know.
I guess to your point, it becomes meaningful if you put something into it, such as a guaranteed playoff spot. But to me, that's wrecking tradition and
It is.
all the other things that have come with the league and fighting for the regular season as a whole to make the playoffs. I don't know. To me, it's just gimmicky. It's just so damn gimmicky. I don't know. It's kudos to LeBron and other players if they were really, really trying to win it. I don't understand. It's not so much to me that these players are divas, but it's just weird to me that he would want to win or be the first to win something like this, because what if you're first 5 years from now, 10 years from now?
Oh, I know.
Is any going to be, you think anyone's going to talk about, oh, did you know LeBron was the first team ever to win this mid-season tournament? No, it's never going to get brought up. Who gives a crap? No one's even going to talk about the most recent team to win it, let alone the first team. It'll be forgotten by next year.
I know. I'm just giving my 2 cents, my man.
Yeah, It's
I'm just giving my 2 cents. We got to have some back to back. I like it, but I'm just,
for sure.
I'm just saying what I read and what I heard, and I don't know. I know I get what you're saying, but I do get what they're trying to do. I mean, we've talked about this multiple times. Sports is a business, and they want to keep it be a business. And
for sure,
if they can gain extra eyes here and there, they can gain extra eyes here and there.
It's all about the money, for sure.
Enough said. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to touch on again, just real quick, and then if you got anything else, let me hear it.
Oh, you know what I have.
Okay. So my thing is, I'm glancing at the standings to see how much has changed since we last talked last week. Not much, really. I mean, the order of things, it's the Celtics and the Magic up top, two of the teams that you and I talked about. The T-Wolves, the Thunder, Mavericks, Nuggets are all up there jockeying in the West. So the usual suspects are still up there. But what stood out to me, and we talked about it, I think, last week, it's still going. The Pistons losing 20 in a row. They are 2-21 on the season. Their winning percentage is .087. Losers of 20 in a row. I can't even say it with a straight face. It's so amazing to me. And what's possibly even more amazing is the San Antonio Spurs in the other conference are keeping pace with them. They've lost 17 in a row. It's absolutely amazing to me, and I'm loving every second of it. This year will be the most I've paid attention to the NBA as a whole, because we're doing this show, and I want to pay attention to it for all the positive, good stories. But I got to be honest, my favorite story so far is these two teams losing 20 and 17 in a row. I can't say I've seen anything like it in really any sport, any of the four major pro sports in a long, long time. I know we mentioned the record, I think last week was 27, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pulling hard for the Pistons to get that record. Absolutely hard. I hope it happens. And I know we're still a long ways away. 7 more games is a lot. Anything could happen. Any team can win on every given night just by sheer luck. But I want to tell you, we do this show. We don't make any money from it. In fact, we pay to help produce this show a bit. I want to go on record. It's not much, but if the Pistons go 28 in a row, 28 losses, I'm going to donate $100 to the charity of someone's choice. The first person to like us and respond to us on Twitter, I'm donating $100 to the charity of their choice. Pistons, 28 losses in a row. Let's make it happen. I want to see it.
I'm in. I'm going to match it. So
I'm so fired up for it.
I'm gonna match it.
So
I'm
fired
gonna
up.
match it.
I love it.
I'm gonna
Match it. There you go. There you
I'm
go.
matching it.
So
But
people out there, again, if you're watching us, if you're listening to us, please hit us up on Twitter. We want your comments. We want to talk about things each week that are interesting to you. Dan and I can do this show. We hope we do a good job talking about the stuff that's on our mind. But if you guys want to hear something, our friends, our family, whoever, that you want to have us comment on, please shoot us a message. So first one to like us and comment on Twitter, we got some money going to a charity. So ball's in your court.
Yep. So the only one that I want to mention is I mention every single week. I'm here about call outs, and my top two teams that I mentioned are still number 2 and number 2 at each conference: my Orlando Magic and my Oklahoma City Thunder. So whenever we talk about basketball, they're still top 2. And like I said, I'm calling out things this year. I just told them to make the playoffs, and they're number 2 in the divisions. In the conferences. So that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, you're nailing it, and I'll tell you what, I'm gonna snip and clip this audio soundbite so we have it. And just like you were right with the Heisman, I hope when the season
we're gonna do it from a couple weeks ago when I did it like 1 or 2 games in the season when I mentioned it that the Magic are gonna make the Magic are gonna make the playoffs and the Thunder are gonna make the playoffs. That's all I needed. So
you called your shot. Yeah, you nailed it.
And that was probably 4 or 5 weeks ago. So we're rocking and rolling. Before we end, we're at that 152 mark. I just wanted to mention a couple things in hockey. You gave me shit the other day because my Oilers are playing your Devils, and I just think it's pretty phenomenal that the Oilers started their win streak at 7 straight when I saw them in Washington, and they haven't lost since. So they're playing really good hockey, and I mentioned this last week. If they get the 10 straight wins, I'm going to go ahead and buy myself an Oilers hat. We mentioned that. You mentioned it. So that's going to be pretty cool. And, a couple things happened that I thought were pretty cool last night. John Tavares, an old Islander player, he ended up getting 1,000 points, which is pretty impressive for a career. I wish he left with the Islanders, but hey, man, losers are going to lose. They're going to lose and leave. And another cool stat is, I don't know if you saw it, but Matthews, he reached 20 goals, which is pretty cool. So first player to reach 20 goals this year, which I think is a pretty cool stat. And my Oilers go for 8 straight against Connor Bedard, first matchup of number 1 overall picks. So that should be a pretty good matchup. And not sure if you wanted to add anything real quick on hockey, but just thought I'd do those 2 cents and go Oilers. Let's get it to 10 straight.
So 10 straight, and you're buying a hat. I guess I'm feeling generous. We got Christmas coming up. Maybe I'm feeling jolly. I think the NHL record for wins is 17. I want to say it's the Penguins. We'll have to look into that. I like to consider myself a historian, especially when it comes to hockey. I think the record.
I'm doing it right now. Checking it right now.
I think it's the Penguins 17. If the Oilers get to 18, I will buy you an Oilers jersey of your choice.
Woo.
So,
all right. 17. You're right. 92, 93. They 17 games, and that was a pretty impressive team they had. Mario Lemieux, Jaromir Jagr, Tom
they
Barrasso,
had Ron Francis.
Yeah,
I
Tom
think
Barrasso,
they had
the
Ron
goalie.
Francis. Yep.
Ron
they
Franchise,
had probably old Samuelson, some of those other guys. Yeah, that's a deep team. So 18, you get an Oilers jersey of your choice.
All right. And 10, I get an Oilers hat. So here we go.
That's right. I'm not buying you the hat. You buy yourself the hat if you want.
That's what I said. 10, I'm getting the hat. 18, I'm getting the jersey. Let's do it.
Okay. So we got some stuff on the line here. I like it. I want to make it interesting. Good reason to follow every week and see the progress. So good stuff. You're right. I can't believe it. We're coming up on the 2-hour mark. So I think we got to get to our picks and make sure we get those in. Quick recap from last week. Anybody following along knows that we went 1-1 each the last 2 weeks, actually, because looking at my lock this past week, I had Houston -5.5. I felt really good about them playing the Jets. We were talking about who was going to quarterback for the Jets, but it ended up being Wilson. So that was a little bit of a surprise. We knew it wasn't going to be Boyle, but either way, I still would have felt confident, and Houston let me down. But my upset, I went with the G-Men. I felt really good about them getting 6.5 points. They didn't even need a point. They ended up winning outright. So I go 1-1 for the week for the second time in a row. And
Get him
now
with
that
the old the Italian. You know what it is? La
Mhm.
Baffangulia. Get him with it.
Absolutely.
Hit him with it.
Absolutely. So now I'm sitting at 11 wins, 11 losses. You turn around and do the exact same thing, and you had your upset, which blew up. You had Detroit giving 3. We all know what happened. They actually lost, so
That
you
was my
didn't get
lock.
that one. But that was your lock, and then your upset was Cincinnati +1.
Yep.
They were getting 1 point, and they ended up winning outright. So we both went 1-1. We were both wrong with our locks and right with our upsets. So the two of
Yep.
us both, we are in lockstep again, sitting tied, 11 wins, 11 losses. We have a few weeks left in the regular season, so I'm coming for you, man. I'm into this
Come
right
on.
now. I like
I'm
that
pumped.
this is competitive between you and I.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying making the picks, and I'll be honest, I'm putting some thought into them. It's
I am
not
too.
easy. And as I'm looking at the
I went first
spreads
last week, so if you
now,
want to go first, if you're ready, make it happen, Captain.
yeah, I am. I think I have my lock. It's not an easy week. There are some games out there. Boy, it's tough, but I'm gonna go my lock this week. It's gonna be a get right game for them. It's on a Monday night, so I see them
Oh, I see
trying
it.
to come through, and I'm
4
gonna
points.
take the Eagles. I wish I have 3.5. You have 4? Okay.
Yep, I got
I'll
minus
take
4.
the 4. Beautiful. I'll take the 4. I still like it. I'd prefer it was 3, but I will take the Eagles as my lock. I think they get right at -4. And then my upset, I think I had this too. There was something that stood out to me. Let me see where it was. Yeah, I mean, I got to go. I'm going back to the well. I'm going back to the well, and I'm going G-Men. They're getting 6. They're
Woo-wee!
getting 6. I'll take the 6, man. I think they keep it competitive. There's so much on the
Hell
line
yeah.
now. I
Hell
don't
yeah.
believe in the Saints. I'm not saying they're going to be a pushover or a blowout or anything like that, but the Saints aren't world beaters by any means. And the Giants, they put themselves right back in the conversation. Give me +6 all day. I think there's a strong chance they win the game outright. If not that, I could easily see them keeping it within 3. So give me
Yeah.
my upset. Give me
Hit
DeVito
'em.
+6.
Hit him with the DeVito. Hit him with the DeVito, and hit him with the Baffangulia. Hit him with it, with the chin.
That's right.
Baffangulia. There you go.
Mhm.
So
All right, your turn. What you got?
I'm going to go back to the well as well. With I got 2 of the games are going to be on Saturday. I do want to talk shit about a team that I've been talking shit about all year. The stupid ass Jaguars. Remember last week when we were making picks? I was saying that I should have went with them. They were getting 3.5, and I said, no way, they're going to screw it up. And they lost to the Browns. And this week they're playing the Ravens. They're going to get smoke checked again at home. So I'm not touching them. But the 2 games that I am touching, the same division, AFC North. For my lock, I'm going to take the Bengals -3.5.
You were going to take the Bengals. Where are they? Why am I not
They're
seeing
playing
them?
Saturday against the Vikings.
Saturday. Oh, I see it here. So you have -3.5. Yep, so do I. So that's your lock.
Yep.
All right.
And then same division, I'm going to take the Steelers +2.5 against the Colts on Saturday as well.
Steelers +2.5. Okay. Okay.
Yep. I wanted to go
That
to the
is
Lions,
a
but I
bold
saw the
pick,
Lions
my
and I
friend.
was thinking about going, but I'm going to go with these 2 bad boys on Saturday. So we'll know what I'm at on Saturday.
Now, I am in no way trying to influence your pick. If anything, I hope you stick with it because I disagree. I am very, very curious. What do you see in Pittsburgh that makes you pick them as the upset? Because it's not you're only getting 2.5 points. So if they lose by a field goal, you lose. Obviously, maybe you think they win the game outright. What do you see in them?
Absolutely jack shit. The only thing that I see in them, and the honest to God truth, the only thing that I see in them is Mike Tomlin's win-loss record. He's not gonna
Okay.
He's not. That's what I see in them, and
All right.
I don't see anything in the Colts either. And the Steelers still have a pretty solid team. The Colts are not that good either, and they're both 7-6. It's going to be inside, so there's going to be nothing wrong with the weather.
Huh?
What'd you say?
Not a believer in Minshew mania.
I was for 1 week when he was on the fantasy squad, and then I told him to haul ass. So, yeah. But no, I just think that the Colts, I mean, last week they played like crap, and there's not going to be any weather because it's inside. And I think Mike Thomas is 2 losses against, the Cardinals and the Patriots with two wins each. Tomlin's going to be in their ass. He's going to be pissed off. And I just think Tomlin has too much credibility, too much clout, too much, everything to lose 3 straight and then coming off those 2 abysmal losses and to keep that win, that win-loss record alive. He's only got to win, 2 out of the next 3 to go, 9-8. Or he's got to win 2 out of 4, so he can go 2-2 and go 9-8 and keep that win-loss record. So
the power of that streak, the win-loss record. Yeah, we'll see.
That's my faith in the Steelers is Mike Tomlin.
Okay, I like it.
Enough said. Enough said, my friend.
Sound reasoning there. I like it.
Yeah. Gotta like the reasoning. Absolutely jack shit. That's why I don't see him. Just like Tomlin.
I like it. That's it takes some gumption, some gusto there. So
true honesty as it is.
That's right. So 2 hours, 1 minute. This has been our longest show to date, if I'm not mistaken.
I think we did 2:03 a couple weeks ago.
Okay. Well, let's just hang on. Let's just sit and wait for a minute or two.
Now do a little foreshadowing for next week, or wait?
Shadowing?
Foreshadowing for next week. Should we give the people a little peep?
So, okay, yeah, that's a good point. We I don't want to give too much away, but hopefully people are liking the show. If you tuned in, we've had really one major guest. We had Chip Lawrence join us a couple of weeks back. Pro MLB.
2 major guests.
What's that?
We had 2 major guests.
We did. That's true. We did. I can't leave our boy Dolinator out because he's
the
best. We appreciate him. So 2 major guests. And we're looking to have a 3rd next week. Won't say the name because it's locked in, but you never know what can happen with schedules. But we are set to be joined by a former NFL player, former first-round draft pick, someone who played in the NFL for more than a decade, and should be able to spend some time with us. Hopefully, talk some NFL playoff ball and all the good things going on right now. So. Little preview into what's hopefully going to come next week. Really, really super excited to bring that to everybody. So we always thank everybody for joining us. Dan, you're the man. Thank you. Couldn't do it without you. Any kind of closing remarks?
Not a whole lot, man. Just fun stuff, good talks, and go Yanks. And hopefully we get some more players and become the Mecca, like I said.
The Mecca. The rebuild is here. And, it's in full swing. So good stuff.
Sir.
Huge show today. We thank everybody, as always, for listening. Overtime Sports Show. Hit us up on all the social media channels. We're super grateful and thankful for all the support, the likes, the mentions, subscribes, all that stuff. If you haven't done it already, please give us a shout out. Hit that like, subscribe button. We would greatly appreciate it. But it's another one in the books. Greg Gross, Dan O'Brien, Overtime Sports Show. We're out. See everybody next week.
See ya.
Everybody come see the greatest show. Gather up all juggalos and roll. Everybody come see the greatest show. Gather up all juggalos and roll.